So there are 4 components of influence, right? You have SPCL, special is the easy way to remember it. You have status, which is the number of reinforcers that you control. The stuff that people want, you control that. The second is power, which is say-do correspondence, which is when I tell someone to do something, if they follow those instructions, a good thing occurs. You gain more influence. The third is credibility. So is there a third-party world that proof that what I'm saying is true? And then fourth is likeness. How similar are they to me? Now, in this audience, it's mostly men around my age. Not all, obviously, but I have a preponderance of dudes around my age. And so that's because likeness is a strong influence on that. Layla talks about many of the same things that I do, and her audience is 54% female. Is it like, and if I were to talk about her stuff, I'd probably still have more men, right? And so, okay, you're like, all right, I understand that. And so how do we reverse engineer? And I'm going to talk about each of these in a little bit more detail, and then we'll talk about how to apply to video. Okay. So from the status perspective, each of these operate independently, but can also be combined. When you have all 4, it's significantly more influential. And so a kid who has a trust fund and a kid who doesn't have a trust fund, somebody who's rich inherently, didn't earn it, but just is rich, has more influence than somebody who doesn't. Now, do they have the most influence? No. But if that person was a trust fund kid, somebody who had a lot of money and gave you 10 stock tips, and out of the 10 stock tips, all 10 worked, and you made money on all of them, on the 11th stock tip, the likelihood that you would follow their request is high. If they had credibility, it's, okay, do I have proof that these things occurred outside, right? Now, some of these boxes can check multiple things. And so if he gave you stock tips and they worked, and then he gave you another stock tip, he has credibility, he has power, and he has status. If he said, here's another investment that's not stock related, here's a real estate investment, he no longer has credibility, but he does have power still because other things you generally have listened to have worked, not specific to the thing that he's talking about. And then finally, if he looks like you and he talks like you and he's your twin brother, much more likely that they're going to listen. And so in any of these situations, if it's just a dude who looks like just like me, I'm more likely to listen to him than an old lady. I'm just more likely to. If somebody has credibility around the thing, I scaled a sales team, I'll give you a different example. If I scaled a company to $1 billion and I had 0 equity in it, but I was the CEO, I would have credibility. If I was also the founder and had all the money, I would also have status. Now, if I've never given you any advice in the past, I have no power over you. If I then gave you advice and it worked, then I have 3 of the 4. And if you look like me, I have all 4, right? And so the idea is that if we want to gain influence, we want to have as many of those loops demonstrated as often as possible in the content that we have. The reason I start every video with, my name is Alex Hormozi, I own acquisition.com. It's a portfolio last year at over $250 million a year. And the reason I make these videos is so I can help you do X, Y, and Z so we can eventually blah, blah, blah. All right? I do that because I'm trying to demonstrate these things as fast as I can. I try to demonstrate status, credibility. The power occurs from how good the advice that I give is. And that is, if I had to pick one of the 4 to have, it's that one. It's how well can you give people directions in order to get something good to happen. So some of you guys have heard of Martha Stewart, hopefully. Martha Stewart's a goat. I have a tremendous amount of respect for her. She was the original influencer, one of the first ever, and everyone was amazed that she became the first self-made female billionaire. No one talks about this. First self-made female billionaire. Why? She literally gave women instructions for years on how to do stuff, and then they followed those instructions, and then good things happened. They made the cake, exactly, and then everyone said, oh, you're amazing, Mom, and they do that over and over again. So when she says, buy my book, they're like, of course I'll buy your book. Every other thing that you've told me to do has worked for me. And so back to the original part of like, okay, the hooks, we have to think about what is the promise that's going to be more relevant to your avatar. So let's reverse this. This applies for, by the way, for many of you guys who are stuck at like, I can't scale my ads past 1,000 a day or 10,000 a day or whatever. This is why you're stuck. So it's a reverse pyramid. So this is not mine. This is Eugene Schwartz. Problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and then most, all right, which is usually just existing customers, okay? So most of you are making content and are making ads for these people. You're just talking about affiliate marketing. So there, you're really only talking to this, and if this were represented to be like wider like that. So you're only talking to this tiny slice of the market here when you talk about affiliate marketing, and maybe some of this, right? Now, as we go broader and broader out, you get significantly wider TAM. This we solve with curiosity. Have you ever wondered how people spend all their time on the beach and somehow make more than you even though you're clocking in and working harder than them? I'm leaning in. I don't know what's affiliate marketing yet. 5 weird fruits that, like, have you seen those, like, the little side things, like the banana that's rotten? Like, 5 weird things that whatever. Like, how does that work? It's because you can target an ocean there. Now, whether that weird banana turns into an information product, whether that turns into ashwagandha root, whether that turns into a coaching program, whether that turns into a gym membership, all of that is down funnel. But fundamentally, we're capturing the attention. You're capturing it too low in the funnel, which is why not enough people find it relevant. Does that make sense, though?
No,
like,
that's
that has to be real, though, for you, because I want to actually help.
Yeah, no, this is great.
So we have to reframe the opportunity as though, so like imagine you go to a dinner party with your mom, and her friend's like, what do you do? And you need to sell her. You wouldn't start by saying, I'm the top affiliate marketer or whatever. You start with, okay, have you ever bought stuff on the internet before? Did you know that there's some people that when you click that, they actually made money, but they didn't own the company? They're like, huh. And you're like, yeah. And the way it works is something called affiliate marketing. And basically, instead of trying to build a whole product, you just find stuff that people are already buying or that you'd recommend to a friend anyways, and you just get paid for it. So have you ever recommended anything to anyone before? And they're like, well, yeah. It's like, okay, did you get paid for it? And they're like, no. It's like, would you like to? Yeah. Now we have a lead. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love the way you break it down. That's great.
So just pretend you're talking to your mom's friend, but you start there. You wouldn't just be like, affiliate marketing is amazing. She'd be like, I have no fucking clue what you're talking about. You're like, but I'm top on the leaderboard. And they're like, I know leaderboards are good, and I'm glad that you're on the top of it, right? I can say $250 million. Generically, people know that's a lot.
Yeah.
No one even knows how much that is. It's just a lot.
But eventually you do want to talk about the credentials, right? Once you get them curious and then...
It's top, middle, and bottom of funnel. You're sure you're going to have some videos that are going to be more tactical, like more, just expect those to not get the same reach.
So I think that's what I do is I'm very tactical.
Yeah.
That's the thing I do. So, yeah. But I have a follow-up question, though, from the first one.
Does that help, though? Because I think if you do that, you will get significantly more reach.
Yeah. No, this is great. For sure. That makes sense because I am very tactical with how I...
And so I want to finish this for you because I think I really want you to do it. I started with an unaware person, which is your mom's friend, right? Now, she's not looking for anything. We have to get her with curiosity. Mm-hmm. If she's in pain and your mom says, hey, my son does stuff that does money things, you should talk to him. Mm. She's here. She's not unaware. She's problem aware. She doesn't know what you do, but she's aware of the fact that she doesn't want what she currently has. And so that's where pain-based hooks are super powerful. And probably the second, like curiosity is always the top. Mm-hmm. Underneath of that, you've got pain, right? And so that's where you'd say like, so right now you're working 9 to 5 every day, right? And you've got somebody else who's telling you what to do, and you don't like that. But the thing is you've tried other things before, but it hasn't really worked for you. You tried this, you tried this, you tried this. I was like, have you thought that maybe the problem wasn't you, it was actually the opportunity you're pursuing wasn't the right match for you? So let me give you an analogy, right? So believe it or not, some of us are genetically predisposed to enjoying certain types of exercise. So we used to think, oh, we should just tell people to go lift weights. But believe it or not, when you actually interview people who lift weights and people who do cardio, who do marathons and people who do ultra marathons and people who do yoga, they all actually have very similar psychographics. And so rather than trying to say, hey, you're not exercising because I told you to do bodybuilding, we should just look at your psychographics and say, which type of exercise are you most likely to be a fan of or that you'll like over the long haul? Because if we just solve for the long haul, we're good, right? Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I think that given what you've told me so far, this is the type of opportunity that might be better suited for you if you're X, Y, or Z. Now I'm problem aware, right? I know I'm suffering from these things and I'm matching their problems to my solution. And then you obviously go down.